Hello. So I have been doing another deep dive with the nervous system and getting a lot of cool little insights and information. And I wanted to share some of them because, man, it's just like changes the whole way that you perceive things, gives you a sense of understanding and ability to like work with your nervous system, which is really empowering, gives you a sense of self-efficacy, and it also allows you to bring a bit of self-compassion into like how your system is responding to certain things because our nervous system. Oh, there's another thing I want to say like later on as well, which I think would be an interesting discussion point, especially with people that understand this sort of thing, to hear what your thoughts are on it. Anyway, we'll leave that to the end. But yeah, like having a level of self compassion for your system because this amazing thing that we have, this body, this nervous system, is geared up to help you survive. And when you start to understand that the way that your body and your system is responding to things is basically because it's trying to help you survive, it can help you like remove self-judgment and criticism about the way that you're responding to things and start to become a bit curious about like, hey, I wonder what it is that my system is picking up on in the environment that is telling it and telling my awareness that I'm not safe. And then once you start to get curious and you start like looking into those sort of things, you can start using a bit of discernment and being like, hey, I wonder, like that response, is that really like, am I really in danger here? Is that really, like, is it really a threat to my life? And yeah, you can start to build capacity and you can also start to notice and shape your nervous system. So your nervous system, it is constructed at different levels. A lot of what I'm talking about today is polyvagal theory by Dr. Stephen Porges, so you can look into that if you're interested. But the nervous system is built or evolved over millions of years, and you can also see it developing as the baby develops. And so the most primitive part of the nervous system is the dorsal vagal. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is to do with the vagus nerve, and about the nervous system as it relates to the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in our body. It's actually a bunch of different nerves, and everyone says this, but it's called the vagus means like wandering. So it wanders all the way through our body, and it connects to lots of different organs, and it's part of the autonomic nervous system, which means the part of the nervous system that happens without our conscious awareness. And yeah, so the most earliest part that evolved as you can think of it as like the lizard brain, is the dorsal vagus, and it is responsible for the collapse or shutdown state. So that is like, if you think of like lizards or something, it's like a freeze state where the threat to your system is so big that you go into shutdown, and it's almost like your system is shutting down, preparing you to disappear, or almost like a mini death process. And yeah, that's when the system is under such threat that it can't mobilize energy to respond to that danger or that threat. And then the second part to evolve is the fight flight response. And so that is a step up the hierarchy, and it's when the system is activated, there's energy running through it, and it's there to mobilize you into action to deal with the threat, whether that be to fight or to flight. And that was the second part of the system to evolve. And then the third part to evolve is the ventral vagal, and that's the safety and connection part. And that part of the system is part of the mammalian brain, and all mammals have it. So yeah, it's the latest part to evolve, and you see that evolving in fetuses from the last trimester into the first year of life. So this is when that system is really getting shaped by the external and internal environment, and the way that you know, like the baby is connecting to the primary caregivers and things. So that's how sort of attachment theory comes into this as well. It's interesting because that part is connected to all mammals. So you can use co-regulation, where your nervous system is regulating to another nervous system. That's, say you're in an activated state, you're in fight, flight, and there's another nervous system, whether it be a person or a dog or a pet, that is in a connected and safe sort of expression then, or state, then you can co-regulate with that nervous system. And it's so fascinating. I love this so much. So especially our ventral vagal, the safety part of the vagus, it actually, the nerve connects to the heart, but it also has parts that connect to like the eyes and the mouth and the voice. So in a way, what our systems are doing all the time is it's actually expressing your nervous system state outwards, and then it's also receiving the nervous system, like the state of other nervous systems, especially like primarily mammals that are around you, to connect or to notice that there's a lack of connection and lack of safety. And so yeah, it's so fascinating. Like our nervous systems are always just like connecting and interacting and sending signals. And because this is part of the autonomic nervous system, it's just happening like below our conscious awareness. And this is why sometimes, like, you know, you meet someone and they might be really connected in that safety and connection ventral vagal state, and there's something that like you just want to connect and get to know them, and there's their face is inviting you in, their nervous system is actually inviting you in to connect with them. And then other people, they might be in an activated state or shut down. And a lot of the time what happens with that is like we really look at people's eyes. So if people are in a shutdown state, then they will struggle actually to have eye contact. And then that also, so like a soft, gentle eye contact is also like a really primary signal that you're in or somebody else is in a state of that ventral vagus safety. And yeah, there was something else that I wanted to say with that. Yeah, safety, connection, noticing each other's nervous. Oh, yes. So the safety state. So it's really interesting, and especially anyone that's working in healing or therapy spaces, other nervous systems will co-regulate or take on the same sort of connection as whoever is the most organized. So if you're in a space that you know how to keep yourself in a space of safety and connection and presence, then if someone else comes into your sphere and they're dysregulated, their nervous system, it's like whoever is most connected and in that anchored state of safety, other nervous systems will co-regulate with that one. So this is why like the therapeutic relationship and different like healing relationships, being a healer, learning how to keep yourself in that space of safety and connection is going to do a wealth of benefits for your clients. And a lot of that will happen, unconsciously. And, there's been studies that show that the therapeutic alliance is like accountable for like a large percentage of therapeutic change in clients. And I think a lot of that is to do with the nervous system co-regulation that happens in that space and the sense of safety. The other thing that's really interesting is that safety response, it's not just feeling safe and connected, like there's different flavors of it. So it can actually mix with the other responses or states of the nervous system to produce a mixed state that is also like connected and safe. So you can, if it's mixed with the, if the ventral vagal is mixed with the fight flight state, then you actually, it's combined to create a state of play. So your system has energy and activation, but you're also engaged with others, which is really, really interesting. And then the other one, when it's connected to the dorsal vagal or the shutdown collapse space, it actually allows you, actually Dana that talks about this says it's like the ventral vagal is just like gently holding these other states. So when it's connected to the shutdown state, it allows you to sit with someone, for example, in silence and be totally comfortable, or it can help you to sit in solitude and feel very safe and peaceful. So that's like, for example, with meditative practices where you're alone, but you feel completely connected, but you're very still. Your system has very little energy. So these states are like regulated states, where those activations are working sort of in harmony. And then you can have dysregulated state, which of those activated ones, which is like fight flight, or the shutdown one. And you can think of that as if like those energies aren't flowing in harmony. There's like an erraticness to it, or there's a complete like lack of energy and total shutdown. So yeah, it's interesting too. So these are like all parts of the autonomic nervous system, like I was saying, and the vagus. So it actually receives a large percentage of the information. So there's a part of your brain that's always monitoring what's happening internally and then externally, and to just like monitor where you're at and produce the right amount of activation, or potentially like respond in a way if you're receiving signals that you're not safe or that you're in danger. And like I think it's up to 80% of that information actually comes from the bottom up. So your body is always sending signals up to the brain to tell you about like where your system is at. And the process of befriending a nervous system, it comes with a few, like there's a certain sort of flow of information that happens. So neuroception happens unconsciously, and that's what I was talking about, where your system is sending up to your brain where you're at. And then the next step along that flow is perception. So your system, your brain registers what is happening internally or externally, and then that moves down the river of response to feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. So you can use because feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are further downstream from the nervous system, like neuroception and perception, you can use those things to help you befriend your nervous system and get curious to see, like, okay, so because your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are affected by what state your nervous system is in, you can start to bring curiosity and less judgment to the way that you're responding in those ways, like thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, knowing that, like, oh, okay, so this means that I am in fight mode, and then you can start to like build discernment and sort of get curious about, like, okay, so that means that my system thinks there's a level of danger here somewhere, and you can start to notice what signals are coming that are telling you that you're in danger, whether that be internally or externally. One of the really key things to keep in mind is that all of those responses are survival responses. And so your system is so intelligent, it is trying to keep you alive. And when we can realize that, we can remove some of the judgment, and we can start to take more of a self-compassionate understanding, and start to befriend that system. And so, like, for example, the external environmental cues that might trigger your system into a state of sensing that it's in danger can be something really, really small. It can be like a vocal tone change or something like that, or like, see when I'm speaking and my eyes are responding. They've actually done studies to show that when people's eyes, it's only that like don't respond, then a lot of us will interpret that as like a lack of safety, which I thought was really interesting for people that get Botox and stuff, where they're freezing their face. And so we're not like, it affects the way that we actually can detect where they're at in their nervous system and be able to respond to them. So I thought that was pretty interesting. One of the ways that you can know that you're in a safety state is that there will be a sense of like something feels like it's pulling you into the present moment experience to connect. Whether that be like, maybe it's like the lighting, or there's a color here, or there's a sense of like you're sort of almost being drawn towards the present moment experience. And when you're in a state of lack of safety or activation, there'll be a pulling back. And so that's a really nice like signal to help you be able to tune into, to know if you're in a state of safety or in a state of fight, flight, or shutdown. The other thing that's important is that with this nervous system stuff, we're not aiming to be connected and safe in that mode 24/7, because that actually wouldn't be functional for our survival and our existence. So if you consider that like, hey, there's a tiger in front of me, I don't want to go in and try and connect with the tiger. I want my system to activate, and my nervous system, and to like mobilize me or respond in a way that's going to help my survival. What we do want to do is learn how to work with our systems to help us come back into that state of safety and connection after that stressor has passed, rather than just being locked on with that response. What you'll find is that if you're in a state where you're constantly, for example, locked on in fight flight, then that uses up a lot of the energy of your system, and then a lot of people get stuck between the fight, flight, and the shutdown response. And so they might think that they're in rest or something, but they've actually just crashed into the shutdown mode. And then to activate their system again, they might have like stimulants or get activated with stress of some sort of tasks or whatnot that they have to do, and their system mobilizes into fight flight to respond to that. But then they don't keep moving up the ladder to where they come back into a place of safety and connection. They just sort of toggle between those two states. Taking also a self-compassionate approach with this and your system is really important, because it helps signal to your system that you're in a place of safety and connection. So when there's signals or like there's self-criticism going on, then that actually activates our system and makes us interpret those criticisms as a lack of safety. If you struggle to find self-compassion and safety within yourself, you can build a safety ventral vagal sort of resource. And what happens with this is that you can start to, for example, a lot of the time working with your senses is really, really good. So start to like notice what what textures, what colors, what scents help really bring that feeling of safety and connection and presence in. And you can work with external things, even if like a lot of people feel like they're in that connected state when they're in nature, right? And maybe you can start to notice like other particular sounds, other particular things in the environment around me that I know can really help bring me into that safety. And if you don't know, you can explore. This is something that you can start to get curious about with yourself, because it's a very individual thing. What might feel like a safety signal to somebody might be a danger signal to somebody else based on previous experiences. The other thing that you can do if you're struggling to find that self-compassion within yourself as well, animals and pets are a really, really great way to co-regulate and to find that safety and that feeling. And like if you're noticing that your system's getting activated, You can even call on a memory and really like expand that memory and those feelings within you about when you felt connected, say, to a pet or something like that. And you can start to do this as well internally. So there's so many different things going on underneath, like in our body all the time. And one of the ways that you can start to build a bit of a safety connection to your body, because a lot of us, we might not even be connected to our bodies. Perhaps there's a lot of stored stuff there and it feels really scary. So I would say this sort of thing, taking your attention into your body, is probably a bit further on if you know that you're quite disconnected and there's a lot under there. But once you start to build and befriend your connection to your nervous system, you can start to bring your attention inside to your body and just notice, like, where in my body right now feels safe, feels comfortable. If safe is a trigger for you, you can just leave that out, because I know that a lot of people as well, they're like, nothing feels safe. So just think, if that's you, just think of it about like, where feels comfortable for me. And that might be something as like little as your pinky finger, but that's still somewhere. So if that is the case, just tune into that spot and really feel like, how do I know that that feels comfortable for me? What is it about that sensation or that part of my body that feels comfortable? So then you can build like an internal, like safety toolkit or safety sort of, box as well, that like, okay, cool, so I can go into different parts of myself that feel comfortable. Might just be the crown of your head that feels comfortable, something like that. Once you start building that connection and you know how to bring, like, you have some tools to bring yourself back to a space of safety or to connection, you can start to titrate your experience. So this is so if you're actually working with trauma work here and this sort of thing, I really recommend working with a someone who specializes in this, because they can help co-regulate with you while you're going into these things, and that can really help if you do encounter places or signals that aren't safe and you haven't fully learned how to bring yourself back yet. So I really recommend that. For those that are just starting out, I would say, like, really tune into those like instincts, right? Those natural instincts when you have to go to the bathroom, when you have to like eat or something like that. That just respond to that, because that's going to build a connection with your autonomic nervous system, where you're actually like receiving the information and responding to it and fulfilling that. So that builds a lot of trust and safety within your system. And a lot of us are disconnected from those sort of autonomic instincts if we've experienced trauma and that sort of thing. So with titration, that can be like, say I am aware of something's activated me in the environment. It doesn't have to be something huge, but I feel like there's activation, maybe a bit of a tightness here or something like that. And you can bring your attention into that space and just notice it. And then you can redirect your attention either to another place in your body that feels safe, or you can direct it out. And you can notice the senses, like, okay, so I'm in this present moment. Because a lot of the time these like activations, if they're not in response to a real threat in your life that actually is going to create danger or a threat to your survival, then they're based on previous experiences. So we can go into this like past mode. So bringing yourself back out into the present moment, noticing, looking around, moving your head around too can help like activate your vagus nerve, and just looking around and noticing, oh, I really like that color green over there, or I really like that, that texture that of whatever. So doing that can help so that you learn how to go into those spaces, but then still come back and build resilience and capacity of your system to shift between those experiences and those states. So this can also, practicing also regularly, just checking in with your system throughout the day and being like, I wonder, like, where am I on that like hierarchy? Where am I right now? And like, where is my system at, and what am I thinking about the world or where I'm at the moment, because your thoughts will reflect where you're at. So if you check in and you're activated, and then you feel when you check in with your thoughts, you're like, I'm so stressed, I can't handle this, like that sort of thing, it'll be a good signal to help you know like where on the hierarchy you are. So finally, I thought I'd do a little exercise to help us get in touch with what our system feels like in different states. I'll just preface this by saying that if you know that your system gets activated easily, if you have trauma history and you haven't developed you haven't been working with someone without, you have a lot of stored stuff, or if you're sick as well and you're feeling quite like run down, I would suggest not doing the movement part of this exercise, because it can be a bit too activating. So also, if your system's stressed under sickness, then it's more likely to put you into an activated state, because those resources are sort of being drawn to fight that immune system invasion. So so you can just do the visualization part of this. You don't have to do the movement part. The movement part is going to help you sort of get a feeling of how that state of the nervous system like moves within your body. So just take a nice deep breath, and you can close your eyes if you'd like to go a little bit more internal, and just tune in and notice. So where you might like to bring to mind a memory, perhaps connecting with a pet or a person that you really love and trust, some time that you felt really connected and safe, and just turning the energy and that emotion and that sensation up now, really feeling into it. What does it feel like in your body? Is there a sense of expansion? Maybe there's a softening down through your shoulders, maybe a softening in your belly. Whatever is happening, just allow that to expand even more. I'm really feeling that. Yeah. And if you'd like to move into the movement part of that, just really tuning into that energy and starting to perhaps move your arms in a way that expresses what that state is. And this will be individual for everyone. So I feel like my arms want to go like this. And then there's almost like a two-way flow. So it wants to go like this and expansive. Yeah. And just feel into how that energy flow feels in your body. Otherwise, if you're not doing the movement part, you just sit in that visualization and that feeling. Yeah. It's beautiful. Nice. And then just relaxing back down. Maybe closing your eyes down again. And just tuning into remembering a time when your system felt activated, and not super activated, not something really triggering, but say like something slightly activating in your system. Maybe there's a bit of stress at work or something like that, and just feeling that. Yeah, I'm really noticing how that feels in your body, turning the emotions and the energies in that experience up a little bit, so you really get an understanding of how that feels. Like for me, I feel like there's a sense of something rising internally, like a pressure. Just notice how that feels in your body. If you need to, you can come back to that safety state or open your eyes at any time. If you want to move into the movement part, just see if you can take that energy and express it in a movement. Mine feels like this, but like going up, like this, disorganized and like, yeah, really good. All right, and then when you're ready, you can stop that. Maybe have your eyes open, notice something in the room that feels, or wherever you are, that feels nice, that looks inviting, that sounds good. Yeah, good. And then now we're going to go into the collapse state. So if you want, you can close your eyes and just bring to mind a time where you felt really exhausted. Like say you've had a really big day at work, and then something happens, you come home and you're trying to make dinner or something, and then like you smash a plate and you just hit a wall, and you just sit there and you're like, oh. So just really feeling that. Again, not a really big trigger, just something in your everyday life that's yeah, along that line. And like just allow that feeling to come into your body. I feel like I want to go like this, and it'll feel like there's a lack of movement, like a collapse down. Yeah, that's good. Knowing that you can go back to that safety state if you need to, or open your eyes and reorient to the space. For me, it feels like this. It's like a little bit of movement, but it's like a hiding, and I feel like there's a lot of energy out through my back, almost like a turtle, right? Like that. Yeah. And then just release, let that go, shake it off. And before we finish, let's just tune into that ventral vagal, that connection space again, remembering that time perhaps with your dog or with someone that you love, or you felt connected and expanded, and you might like to move that through your body too, doing that movement. Yeah. Beautiful. That's so good. And then when you're ready, you can just let that go. One of the things about I'd love to hear how you went with that exercise if you did it. One of the things about the collapse state, which is really interesting, and with other people who might be in that state, is you can think of it, it's funny because I mentioned like my back felt like a turtle. You can think of it as like a turtle going into its shell. And so, for example, if we're with someone that's in a shutdown state, like I think Deb Dana talks about this. She's like, you wouldn't go and like knock on the shell and try and get the turtle to come out. That's not going to work. And so it's similar with our system too. Like it just needs time to process through that activation, through that state. And one of the ways that you can help someone who's in that state is literally just to sit and be present with them. Keep yourself in that state of connection, but actually be with them too. So one of the things too that can be a bit, what's the word, like, can be a bit hard with people who are in certain states is, say if you're in a shutdown and someone comes in and they're in ventral vagal play and they're like, la la la, play, play, play. And that can sort of drive more of a disconnection because of the difference between the different states that the nervous systems are in. So this is also like, say, for example, you're working in a healing space or something like that, and someone comes in, they're really activated. One of the ways that you can help bring them into a space that may be more quiet for the work that you need to do or that sort of thing is to stay in your ventral state, your connection state, and maybe like bring a bit of activation in and meet them where they're at. Be like, wow, that's so cool. Whoa, okay, cool. Like, all right. And then sort of like bring them back together so that you're sort of like moving up to meet them, but within that ventral vagal. So that's like what I was saying at the start. The ventral vagal has different flavors, and it can have those mixed states where it has a bit of the dorsal vagal or it has a bit of the activation, like fight, flight, but it's still connected. So it's like you're hot. It's almost like you're compassionately holding those other parts. So yeah, that's something that you can keep in mind as well if you feel like that big disconnect between yourself and somebody else who's in a different state. It can also help you, like when other people around you are in certain states like that you can be like, oh, okay, their nervous system is just activated. They feel like the system's telling them that they're under threat, right? And so it's not necessarily about you, which is always a good thing to understand. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much.